Okay, I'm going to be showing you how to integrate the ByteBrew SDK into your Unreal Engine project. I'm using Unreal 4.27 here, but keep in mind the SDK does support both Unreal 4 and 5. So the first thing you're going to want to do, if you haven't already, is come to the ByteBrew dashboard and add a new game for your Unreal project. You're going to want to put in all these fields: the app title, the app name, bundle identifier, description, genre, subgenre, app ID, and shared secret, and you're going to want to do that for both platforms if you want to support both platforms. I've already made apps for my Unreal test project, so I'm going to open one of them here, and if you go down to your settings and then scroll down from there, you'll find these game keys. These are what you're going to need to initialize the ByteBrew SDK. All right. Next, we're going to want to head over to the GitHub repository for the Unreal SDK. And we're just going to download the whole repository as a zip. I've already done that. So we're just going to go to our downloads, or wherever you download it to. And we're going to extract the zip. Open that up until you find this ByteBrew SDK folder. You're also going to want to open your Unreal Projects folder. And then in there, if you don't have a plugins folder already, we're going to want to make one. So just do new folder, and then plugins with a capital P. You're going to open that up and just drag the ByteBrew SDK folder right into there. Now, my project is already open in the editor, so we're going to have to restart the editor to compile it. When you go to open your project, you will get this prompt. Just say yes. This is asking if you want to rebuild the plugin. And then shortly after, your project should launch. So the first thing we might want to check is to see if our plugin was properly installed. A way we could do that is if we go to Edit, Plugins, and then under Project, Other, just check to see if the ByteBrew SDK is there and if it's enabled. All right, we've successfully installed the ByteBrew SDK into our Unreal project. Now I'm going to show you how to do a simple initialization with both blueprints and C++. Let's do blueprints first. To initialize ByteBrew with a blueprint, keep in mind you're going to want to do this in whatever the first scene of your project is, whatever your launch scene is. I'm just going to do it in the main scene of this example project here because it's the only scene. So I'm going to drag in an empty actor. I'm going to turn off rendering, and I'm going to name it something like ByteBrew example. I'm going to go add component, new blueprint script component, and then I'm going to name it something like ByteBrew init. Create blueprint class. Okay, to save a little bit of time, I've gone and implemented a simple platform check here just to determine whether we need to use our iOS or Android apps game keys to initialize the SDK. So we should be able to right click, and we have this ByteBrew category here, and then we go initialize ByteBrew. And then if this check is true, we know we're on iOS, so we want to use our iOS game keys. And then we can copy and paste this, and if it's false, we're going to want to use our Android game keys. So again, those can be found in the application you created before on the ByteBrew dashboard in your settings down here. So we can copy our game ID, paste it in the game key field, and then copy our SDK key or secret key and paste it in that field. And then engine version, we can just put something like Unreal 4. And then build version is just the apps build version. So let's do 0.1. Now I've only set up an iOS test app in the ByteBrew dashboard, so I only have those keys, but you would just do the same thing here with your Android keys if you wanted to implement Android as well. Okay, so let's compile and save that. And now I'm going to show you how to do the same thing in C++. So since we already have an example actor here, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the blueprint component that we made before from it, and I'm going to add a new component, and it's going to be a C++ component. Name it something like ByteBrew CPP init. Create class. All right, now that's going to open in Visual Studio. And the first thing we're going to want to do is head over here in our games folder, expand our project here, and in our source folder, we're going to open our project's name folder, and then we're going to find this file, projectname.build.cs. We're going to open that up, and right here in public dependency module names, we're going to just add a comma, and we're going to add the ByteBrew SDK to there. We're also going to want to come down here and say private include path module names. We're going to want to add range on that. And then we're going to do a new string array. And then inside here, we're just going to add settings and launch. All right. Now that we've done this, you might want to go back to your Unreal project and just compile the code. Sometimes the IntelliSense doesn't work if you don't do that first. So we can go into our header file of the C++ class that we created, and we can do include ByteBrew SDK interface.h. This will give you all the access to all the functions in the ByteBrew SDK. So if we go over to our C++ source file, in our begin play down here, we could do a similar thing like we did before. We could check if platform iOS, and then we could do else if platform Android, and end if here. And then outside here, we can declare a couple variables. We could say a string for our engine version. Do Unreal 4 again. And then we're going to do another string variable for our build version. We're just going to do 0.1 again. And then in our iOS platform, we're going to want to make another variable here for our iOS game key. You can just leave that for now. And then our iOS secret key. Your iOS secret key. And then here we could do view ByteBrew SDK interface, and we can just call the initialize ByteBrew method. And in here we could just pass our iOS game key, our iOS secret key, our engine version, and our build version, just like that. Again, I haven't implemented Android yet for this test project. So this is how you do iOS. If you wanted to do Android, we could just copy and paste. You can use your Android game keys instead. So let's just update these and then give it a save. Go back to the project and compile. And there it is. So that's how you install and initialize the ByteBrew SDK for Unreal Engine in both Blueprints and C++.